2017 is going to be a year of offense in America. At least the Congress is going to go on offense. We're going to do two things. We're going after Putin harder with tougher sanctions, and we're going to be more helpful to our friends like here in the Ukraine. Senator McCain led the effort to increase the amount of money we can provide to the Ukrainian military. I hope as an appropriator we hit his number and then some to send a signal to our allies that you can count on America.
And provide defensive weapons for the Ukrainian military so they can better defend themselves.
The Congress will pass new sanctions. I'm convinced of that. Whether President Trump signs them, I don't know. But if 2/3 of us vote for sanctions, they become law. The Congress is going to authorize defensive weapons that are lethal. We did it last year. We're going to do it again. But as president, it will be up to him as to whether or not he provides those weapons. These are two examples where the Congress can impose sanctions even without the president's support. But when it comes to providing military weapons, it will be up to the president. And I can promise you this, that the overwhelming majority of the Congress will vote in support of providing defensive lethal weapons to the Ukraine.
How tough will and should be the Senate confirmation hearings for Rex Tillerson? And Senator McCain, you earlier said that you would decide on supporting or not supporting his candidacy after you hear what he says. So what would you want to hear from him to support his candidacy?
Well, first of all, could I say President-elect Trump won the election, so he should have the ability to name his team around him. But I have significant concerns about Mr. Tillerson. A great part of it is his record of relationship with the Russians, his relationship with Vladimir Putin, who, as we met with families today, that his people have killed and are holding prisoner. And we will examine through the hearing process and questions. He will be meeting with me and others, and then we will determine. But I have serious concerns about his record.
And it's not just that he received an award, a high-level award from Putin, but it's also because he has called for lessening the sanctions, reducing the sanctions, eliminating the sanctions in his role of the CEO of a major company. And he may have a strong business background, but what matters to us today in Ukraine and visiting these other countries is that we have a long history. We're coming on the 25th year of these countries declaring their independence and America standing with them. And we can't let that be lost.
I'm sure that you follow closely the so-called Minsk process, or at least you have heard about it. This is the peace process for the eastern Ukraine. And do you consider this format to be a good way for Ukraine to achieve peace in the eastern Ukraine?
If the Russians will abide by it, but clearly they're not.
Should we change it? How do you think?
I'm not sure the agreement ought to be changed, but Russian behavior should be adhering to an agreement that they made, which they are not. There's brave Ukrainians are being killed every single day.
I don't think you should have any political voting or constitutional changes until the Russians withdraw their forces. How can you have a free and fair election or debate about the power sharing with the eastern Ukraine when you got 700 Russian tanks? So the bottom line is that the political aspects of reconciliation that are mentioned in the agreement cannot go first.
What may happen to Crimean Peninsula after we have a new president of the United States, as we've heard some worrying statements made by him that he may reconsider the position of the United States regarding the Russian annexation of Crimea?
First, he would have to then renegotiate the Budapest Agreement, which was the United States was a party to, that guaranteed the Crimea being part of Ukraine as a part of the agreement that eliminated the nuclear inventory of some 100 and some nuclear weapons that Ukraine had. He's clearly in violation of an agreement that the Russians entered into, showing the record and the attitude and the performance of Vladimir Putin, who is a thug and a murderer. We're not going to make any kind of a Faustian bargain with Vladimir Putin, which would interfere with and undermine the freedom and democracies that exist today that have become functioning democracies as an example to the rest of the region and the world. To do such a thing would be a betrayal of everything the United States not only stands for, but has fought for.